Historic Preservation Commission.
But it's different.
Yeah, there's some huge ones there. Those farmers, they had backing. You know, the people who came here didn't have a lot of money, but they sure had their wits about them. They were clever. They were clever. They're playing both sides in a minute. The first people that came here were not poor. We weren't poor until only unique to Van Buren. They had these, and then they had other ones that are cedar. What's left over when you make cedar shingles, those butts that are triangular or whatever, and they would pile those in like a cordwood, and then put dirt around each side of them. And when we see them at the Acadian village, people say, "What's this? We've never seen this before, but it's in Van Buren." That's the way they do it here. I did have the sense to take a picture of this. It's not beautiful, but you know, it tells you what their solution was. It's half of the house has been torn down. This is the Hammond LaPlante house. That's at the Acadian village, but this is before it was moved. This was a summer kitchen onto a house. And you can see here, that's a timber frame house. And behind it are laths, but the laths are made with pine boards where you would nail the corner of the board, take an axe and split it, spread it, nail it again, split it from the other one, spread it. So you have a pine board that might be 12 inches wide and bring it to 36 inches wide by splitting it from either end, and then you plaster over it. So rather than making laths, they're spreading boards. This is the Acadian village that was being built in 1975. Thank you. It's good to have a technical person around. Thank you. This will get me interested in architecture. I was teaching. Could you turn off that other screen? You know how to do that? Oh, okay. But I don't know what just happened, but it was good. It's auto or whatever. Is it possible to keep the screens down without power, without putting anything up? In the meantime, but anyway, I was teaching art in Van Buren, and I had a class of troublemakers, Taylor. They know me in the real. And that's good. Perfect. Thank you. No, that works. That works because there's not as much light coming from that as there was. And what happened is this was closer to the road, and they turned it around and moved it back, so the front door is facing away from the road. This is the front. So you can see it has raised panels here, but diamond point panels. So that's a connected point. In Quebec, you find a diamond point on wire, and everyone says, $10,000 more. Just to have that diamond shape on really big deal. Windows upstairs, it's that diamond point. And then this is birch bark. So you cover over, this is a timber frame house. Over the boards, they put birch bark. And then they put the clapboards. You'll see that every layer here. See the clapboards, the birch bark, the boards, part of the timber frame, the lathing on the interior, and then there's plaster over that in the interior. This is the interior. Again, raised panels. Again, you have that. This is a yellow ochre and barn red. These raised panels going down through. Plaster walls. And the color here was yellow ochre. In other rooms it was salmon. So they took the barn red and the yellow ochre and put it together to get that salmon color. Nice color. So I have pieces of the plaster. I was able to get in and strip a lot of this out because they gave me this place and I was going to tear it apart and reconstruct it. But then the barn, fire started in the barn. Mike threw the antique did was stripping a piece of furniture, and he just finished, and he had a tank that he put the furniture in with a stripper. He didn't fill the tank, but he used to use it as a drip tank, you know, for the chemicals to drip in. And he reached for a light to turn it off, and the light that knocked off and fell in, and the spark ignited the fumes of those chemicals. And he got out with it, just managed to get out of the barn, and within 2 or 3 minutes, the whole interior of the barn was ablaze. There was a 30-gallon drum of those chemicals just in the back corner, 20 feet from this building. And when that blew, the barn was completely down and a mound of cinders in 20 minutes, before the fire trucks could even get there. And the ironic thing is the fire truck was 30 feet away. But it was on 9/11. And all the firefighters, remember the 10th anniversary of the attacks on the World Trade Center on September 11th? It was the 10th anniversary. Firefighters were not included in that celebration, so firefighters all over the nation were having their own celebration. The firefighters in Grand Isle were in Caribou when this happened. Mike called me up and said, "Don, there's a big fire here in a little bit. It's not your place." Because he knew I was coming up from Presque Isle. And I said, "Whose place is it?" He said, "Mine." And he said, "We're going to lose the house too." So we lost the barn, the house, the antique shop, the garage, that's that Bay house, and then across the street there was a nursing home, which I own as well. And cinders from that fire were so intense from that barn. There were pieces of wood, literally 6 inches by 4 inches by 2 inches thick, that had floated up in the air as charcoal, glowing, and fell on the roof of that house across the street. It's where the prevailing wind was. If the wind would have been different, the church would have gone. But the wind never goes in that direction. So. But I thank God anyway.
It was very windy that night too.
Yeah.
Do you know when they first started using plaster out there?
Must have been around the 1850s or so. Had to have been somewhere around there. But they would use, plaster would always be an addition later. You know, in my house it's plaster, but you have pine boards and then a spacer and then the plaster. In my house there's clapboards, pine boards, 5 inches filled with plaster and sawdust, pine boards in spacer, and then plaster, laths, and then plaster. This is the upstairs. Again, all the boards are spaced. This is a house in Grand Isle, right behind the church in Grand Isle, with its porches on. But this was the Louis Philippe Young house. These people were wealthy. But they were real typical Acadians and did not show that wealth. That wealth was hidden. They have. Yeah, it is. It doesn't have porches, so you won't recognize it. But it's empty. It's behind the church in Grand Isle. Not in Little, but in Grand Isle. Victor Vincian is their daughter-in-law. Her husband was their son. And she lives in a house up behind. She was telling me when they were cleaning up this house, this one I came in and took these photos. She said, "John, you want to see? Come and look in the closet." I looked in the closet, and there are 4 tuxedos. Some without tails and some with tails. Some went down to the knees, and then some were tails. So there are 4 different tuxedos, including a white one. Okay? And then ball gowns and furs. And I said, "Was he a Knights Columbus?" No. They own season's tickets to the Montreal Opera. And they used to go to Montreal 5 or 6 times a year to go to the opera. And they had a 55 Mercedes-Benz in the potato house, which no one knew about. And what they would do is, this is on tape too, this goes in, anyway, they would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning when they wanted to go to Montreal, get dressed, get their stuff ready, go in the potato house, warm up the car, open the doors, go out, close the doors, and off to Montreal in the dark. So no one ever saw them leave. They would always come back in the dark. No one ever knew they even had that car. So they had this other life with the arts. Pretty amazing. But the house is very interesting. The house is a stacked plank house. It's solid cedar planks, 8 inches wide, 4 inches thick. One plank over the next. You can see they're sawed planks. So here's one plank right here, and here's another, and here's another, and you see the flax in between, and then there are pegs holding it down. You see the Quebec-style ceiling. There had been a leak in the roof, and water had been coming down. You can see water coming down here. Did not hurt this cedar at all. But upstairs, it's timber frame, and the wood on the walls was completely rotten for 4 feet on each side of the chimney. And the only thing between them and the outside was the tin that was on the exterior of the house and the interior wall. Okay? So they stripped it down, and then we took that to take some photographs of it. But there's another house, the Bouchard house at Mount Carmel is that way as well. It's a stacked cedar house. But see, that's the house there, the stacked cedar house near Mount Carmel. That has these incredible fortunes, which I hope remain, but have been painted in 30 years, they might not survive. It's been vandalized, fortunately. This is the Maison des Seigneurs. See the original pea soup, green. This is the interior, and those are the colors. Those are the original colors. I think the reason why they painted over it is because the colors are kind of bleached out here. Something that water had gotten in at some point, or something happened, or something was stacked against it, or something. So that bleached that out. You can see the inside-out corner. Remember the Lawrence Cyr house? They cut that away. This one, the post is there, so they have to look around the post, which makes an interesting corner. Anytime you have moldings going around corners, it's always more beautiful. Upstairs. This is the Cyr house, not the Cyr house, the Martin house in St. Andre-Moscou. This is a real crime. This house, 1792. Parts of it. And was redone in the 1840s. But this is where I have a piece of glass from the window. See the interior? It had been vacant for quite a few years, and it was restoring itself. See the humidity inside are peeling the new paint off it, and all the original paint underneath is showing through. You can see it. This is a window. So we had shutters to the windows so that you could, I mean, that's from 1792. They were wanting to keep out the cold. What? Yeah. Tried to get New Brunswick Heritage Department to declare it a historic site. They said it wasn't important enough. The same problem in New Brunswick that we have in Maine. Anything north of Bangor or Fredericton is not important. You know, it's a shame, but that's it. And so they wouldn't do it. And someone bought it, and they said, you can build a new house there, but you have to make it look the same as the old house. So that's preserving heritage. And they bulldozed it down. It was gone in a day. If I would have known about it, I would have torn it down, and we have done that enough before, so I could have taken them up and torn it down and transported it. When Olympia Snow was senator and her husband was governor, was talking to her, and so was mentioning this house across. What do you want to do? Do you want to put the angels up? And she said, well, you know, I sleep with the commander-in-chief of the Army National Guard, the governor. She's married to the governor. And she said, if you ever need a helicopter, let us know. But by the time we needed one, they were out of lives. But I said, there's a house across the river, I could get that. She said, we could transport that over. It could be a National Guard summer project, transport it over. It never happened. We did everything we could to try to save this, but see, incredible moldings everywhere, round beams. This place had all its beams, and then you have this raised panel ceiling between beams. I stripped this with my car keys. Just took the car keys, took the rounded part of it, and went in like that. And stripped that off in about 5 minutes. That's the original color, and the bottom is black. But it's black with a deep blue-green black. So it would be so easy to do. Windows. Again, it's 12 over 8. Stairs going upstairs. The attic. You can see where this dormer has been added. It's not original. It'll be added in 20th century at some point. It's the original roof line. And, of course, St. Agatha was the most interesting town in the valley. Most interesting town. I think had a huge influx from Quebec, and they brought Quebec ideas with them. And this is the rectory. The most beautiful building in the region. You have this gallery going all the way around with an overhanging roof. And these are not posts. These are, I think, downspouts. These overhanging roofs overhang enough so that it keeps the rain off the gallery, off the roof. And then you have these dormers with these pyramidal tops. Beautiful, beautiful things. Tore that down and put the rectory that's there now. Probably a more comfortable house. Of course, they restored the church, and it burned down the year after. In fact, the next month, they just finished restoring it. It burned down, I think, 1948 or 49. Of course, the convent in St. Basil. You know, the last houses I've been showing are all luxury houses. These people are well-to-do, comfortable, have bank accounts, and are pretty wealthy, but the exterior of their house doesn't denote their wealth. The interior does, but the exterior does not. And then, of course, the nuns that come into St. Basil are very, very clever. They wanted to build a brick convent, so they built a brickyard. And they sold bricks until they had enough money to make the bricks for the convent. This is the original convent, all of wood. You see the barns? Church. Just around here, back in this backwater, this is where the Acadians landed. Not behind the church of St. David, they landed here. Now, what happened, the reason why they say they landed at the church of St. David is because Joseph Simon David owned the land that the cross was on, where they settled, where they first landed down. And what happened is, after he'd been a while, he traded land with Christos Don Cyr. And Christos Don Cyr's land is behind what's now the church in St. David. So Joseph Simon David was there. So when they were trying to figure out where to put the cross that was there in 1785, this, I don't know when it was, but it was early. I don't think it was in the 20th century. They said it was on Joseph Simon David's land, so they put it there. But the actual place, and if you go there and you say, how did they ever get up that bank? You know, there wasn't a road there, and how did they make that? And so it's like the Plymouth Rock, in that the Pilgrims did not land on Plymouth Rock either, okay? But it commemorates it, so it does what it's supposed to do. But back in here, it's a big flat land, and there's a backwater where you could easily come in there. It's a gentle slope going up here, and so they settled, and you see where the houses have been moved back once the road came in. They tended to move their houses a lot, like the Roy House in Hamlin was originally next to the river, and then they moved it back to the back of the farm. Every 2 miles, there was a new round of farms. So they put it back there. And then it became a sheep shed. And then it got moved to the Acadian village. But that house rotted that much. The logs on the bottom rotted and just went into the ground. So now the windowsills are that far off the ground. Usually they were that far off the ground. So, shows you how old that house was. Almost finished here. This is the Presbyterian in St. Basil. You can see where they've got this little cupola here. I don't know if there must be a chapel back in here added on. A private chapel.
That's what it was, confession.
Yeah. Of course, St. Basil was lived up, so that was, the original parish. This is a house in St. Basil that's being finalized, or vandalized. Vandalized and finalized. You can see they put in a new door. The side lights are gone. See the surround here? This probably was what was on the Dave St. Jean house. The rest of the brackets probably. It looked like Stacy's photo. Looking around the windows. Here, gone. This is right near, not far from the church. This is the side. You look at it now, looks like any other house except it's got that Quebec style roof. This is the old City Hall in Evanston. Right where the new City Hall is. And the house that's over there, which is like the house in Valley. Fancy Walnut. More of a Quebec influence. This is a house in Grand Isle. In Lille. Excuse me. Slap myself still with saying that. House in Lille. This was on the other side of the tracks next to the river. This is the Mormont house. So, 3 stories, really, 3.5 stories. You have these galleries on the front. And the back is literally the width of this room from the river. The bank goes down. And they had family on the other side of the river. And the stories told stories about smugglers, about how a family on the ridges on the other side of the river, when they would open their barn doors, both barn doors wide, that meant that tonight's night they're going to bring liquor across the river. And then there's a clothesline out here, and what Mrs. Bourneau would do is hang a quilt on the clothesline. Yellow quilt means okay, red quilt means no. There's danger. And they were literally on their way it was in daylight, bringing some liquor across the river. And they heard the revenuers were on their way up. And so she hauls in the yellow quilt, and she has to air out the red quilt really quickly, waving it in the air, and then turn around and go back. But this house burned. This house caught on fire quite a few times because it has a shingle roof. Normally, the shingle roof was painted with iron oxide, which is a rust color. It's a red with a lot of rust in it. And what happens is it would make it fireproof. Apparently they didn't paint this roof. And that's why the roof of the church in Lille is red, for that reason. Because it was always painted that color. In fact, on one of the clapboards, one of the original clapboards, where the chapel, the sacristy, was built later, again, we had original color there. You can see a big dollop of that hit the clapboard, it dripped off the roof. And so that's how we know that. But this house, chimney fire started from one of these chimneys, caught it fire, and this house burned from the top down, and they had enough room, everyone in town went in and emptied the house out. And the furniture from this house is all over the place. It was all oak furniture and stuff like that. Nothing Acadian, it was all super robot stuff. But still, they were able to save everything in the house, but it was a big, big house. Going right out. This is the Cyr farm. Patrick Cyr shows you. He's got a double barn. This double barn makes a T rather than an H. See the house for the help behind here. Potato house, machine shop. They did an incredible business. Enough, so his son married Annie Sefferson, and they bought Senator Terrier's house right directly across from the church. And when they went, Annie showed me pictures of when they made a trip to Italy. And they took with them the Bishop of Portland and a Cadillac. Took it over by ocean liner and traveled around Europe in a Cadillac with the bishop. And I said, why'd you take the bishop? She said, we wanted to get in the Vatican. We wanted to get in great places. When I was renting the rectory from the parish, Father Boldick said, I was going to Italy. And Father Boldick said, you want a collar? I said, no, Father, no thank you. He said, you'll get into places in the Vatican that you'll never get in if you're wearing a collar. I said, yeah, but it would be my luck. Someone would drop dead in the streets and I'd have to give them extra luncheon or something like that. He said, oh yeah, I never thought of that. Of course you did. I didn't do it. This is backwards. This is in Edmonton. Edmonton has done a fabulous job of tearing down everything beautiful in that city. And I say that without reserve. There's nothing left. Well, there's one house. This is, I think, yeah. This is, oh, that's in the John House. Convent St. Agatha, fabulous building. Unfortunately, Daughters of Wisdom have a vow of poverty, so they tear down things that they're no longer using. So we lost the building because of that. I got some fabulous things on it though, because I was working for Ann Eskeditz in Prescott. She had an antique shop. I started working for her when I was 13, and she bought an iron wine cup from that convent. And I looked at that and I said, that's the nicest piece of iron I've ever seen in my life. How much is it? She said $10, so I bought it for $10. I took it home and just love the thing. And it's a Roman wine cup, Roman style wine cup, with handles that go out and go around, and you pick it up by both, and you could put a quart of wine in that. You drink it like that. And at one point I thought, this is not iron. It's too fine a quality. So I screwed the bottom off, and see underneath is bronze. But it has a black patina. It's been chemically dyed to black. And I look inside that, and I see two L's. Two capital L's, Sev. Sev is from where the Daughters of Wisdom, the Filles de la Sagesse, are from. Okay? And it's right next to Versailles. And I checked those L's, I looked up the L's, 1725. And that was in that convent. Incredible. They're incredible things in there. This is at the Acadian Village. This is the forge. The roulette house. Before it got its clapboard put back on. Then the summer kitchen. You see the background of the Morno house. This is the Bouchard porch in Grand Island. A house. San Basil, that isn't completely wrecked at this point. This is the, this is the antique shop bar in the middle. This is the day house that they turned into a garage. A lot of these are the same as you've seen. That's the Cyr house. And that's me and Terry putting up the angels. That was on Labor Day weekend. Hired that lift, 85-foot lift, at $800 a day.
I believe it.
$800 a day. We had it for a week.
Oh my God.
And when we were putting those up, no wind, no rain for those 8 days. You got it. Let me tell you. That's the yellow cover. This is the first coat where you had to put rusting into the primer. And then this is the second coat. It's yellow paint. And then the third coat is the gold paint. And these are the same job. Make the same job. Yeah, these are the same ones. These are the ones that were missing in the other sort of house restoring. So literally.
Before you go, I would like to thank everybody who helped put this together. Aaron Burns, Lily Messi, Don Juanette, Sue Ritardi, and Terry Kelly, and my assistant, Ansha. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming.